Imagine living in a world where happiness isn't something you need to chase. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing you don't have to keep running towards something just to feel alive. You don't have to claw your way toward the next promotion, the next relationship, the next validation that tells you that, finally, you're enough. Aristotle once said, "Happiness depends upon ourselves." At first it sounds comforting, almost gentle, a reminder that you hold the key. But if you listen closely, it carries a darker weight. It means that no one is coming to save you. It means that everything you are searching for in the outside world is, and has always been, your own burden to bear. Imagine not relying on the next big thing, the next applause, the next moment of approval to feel complete. What if happiness wasn't out there waiting for you? What if it had been inside you all along, quietly waiting for you to notice? You hear Aristotle's words, and maybe for a moment they feel empowering, but give it time. Let it sink into your bones. It strips away every excuse you've ever made. It turns the mirror around and forces you to look, not at the world, not at the people who failed you, but at yourself. The life you're living, the heaviness you carry, the dissatisfaction gnawing at your soul. They aren't anyone else's fault. They're yours. That's the real secret the world doesn't want you to know. Because if happiness depended on what you had, who you were with, or how the world treated you, then you could always blame something else when you were miserable. But Aristotle's truth leaves you nowhere to hide. It demands that you sit with your own emptiness and admit the painful possibility that maybe the reason you're unhappy is because you've been searching in all the wrong places. It's not about more stuff. It's not about more accomplishments. It's not about more approval. It's about recognizing, maybe for the first time, that the power to be truly happy has always been in your hands. You just refuse to believe it. You were taught to believe otherwise, taught to believe that happiness is a destination you reach after enough hard work, enough sacrifice, enough suffering. Taught that someday, after enough blood and tears, life would hand you peace like a medal for surviving. But what if the key to a fulfilling life wasn't in what you acquire? What if it was in what you already have, in what you already are? You spend your life chasing things, thinking that if you can just get a little further, a little faster, you'll finally arrive. But every time you catch something, the feeling fades. The satisfaction evaporates before you even have time to savor it. And so you move the goalpost again. You tell yourself you'll be happy when you get the next thing, the next validation, the next fleeting high. And in that chase, you miss the entire point. Happiness is not a prize waiting at the end of the race. It's not a trophy you win for enduring enough pain. It's not something the world can give you, or something anyone else can steal. It's a choice you make. It's a battle you fight within the walls of your own mind, every single day. Stop chasing, start understanding. You think you're running toward happiness, but you're not. You're running from yourself. You're running from the parts of you that are broken, scared, ashamed. You're drowning them out with noise, more work, more distractions, more shallow victories. Anything to avoid the silence that keeps whispering the truth you don't want to hear. That nothing out there will ever be enough if you are not enough for yourself. You don't need the next promotion. You don't need the perfect partner. You don't need the bigger house, the better body, the shinier life. You need to face yourself. You need to admit that no amount of external achievement will ever fix the internal emptiness you refuse to confront. That's the part nobody wants to hear. Because it's easier to believe that happiness is just out of reach, dangling in front of you like some grand prize you haven't quite earned yet. It's easier to convince yourself that it's the fault of your circumstances, your upbringing, your bad luck. It's easier to point fingers at the world, to say that you would be happy if only things were different. If only you had been given better opportunities. If only people had treated you with more kindness. If only life had been more fair. It's easier to imagine that happiness is a door someone else is keeping locked, that the key is in someone else's pocket. Because if that's true, then you don't have to do the hard work of looking inward. You don't have to sit with your own pain, your own fears, your own mistakes. You can stay busy blaming the outside world, convinced that it owes you something it refuses to give. It's easier to hide behind bitterness than to admit that maybe, just maybe, you've been the one standing in your own way all along. Taking responsibility for your own soul is terrifying. It means that no matter what storms rage outside, you are the one who decides whether to crumble or to stand. It means that even when life kicks you to the ground and leaves you bleeding, it's still up to you to get up. No one is coming to save you from your own mind. No external victory, no relationship, no recognition will ever heal the parts of you that you're too afraid to face. And that's the truth most people run from. They run toward distraction, toward addiction, toward constant motion. Anything to avoid the deafening silence that tells them they are the ones responsible for their own fulfillment. They build lives that look perfect on the outside but feel hollow within. They collect achievements like trophies, hoping that if they stack them high enough, they'll finally feel whole. They chase applause, approval, admiration, all the things that make them feel momentarily alive, only to crash into the same emptiness when the noise fades. Because deep down they know, no one else can fix what's broken inside them. Taking responsibility for your soul means accepting that your happiness isn't waiting at the end of some distant road. It's already here, buried under layers of fear, resentment, and lies you've told yourself about what you need to be enough. It's about understanding that the real enemy isn't the unfairness of life, but the unwillingness to own your power within it. It's a brutal truth. It's an uncomfortable one. But it's also the doorway to something real. And the moment you stop waiting for the world to change, the moment you stop believing that happiness is something owed to you, you finally set yourself free. Not because the world softens, not because it suddenly begins to care about your pain, but because you finally see the truth, that it never cared to begin with. It was never personal. The world spins on, indifferent to your suffering, your longing, your endless prayers for something better. And yet somehow that cold indifference carries a strange kind of mercy, because it forces you to stop waiting. It forces you to wake up. When you stop waiting, you tear the invisible chains from your own hands. You stop living your life like a prisoner begging for scraps of joy from forces that don't even know you exist. You stop bargaining with a world that has nothing left to offer you but empty promises and distractions. You stop looking outside yourself for something that was never there to begin with. You realize that every moment you spent blaming the world was a moment you handed it your power. Every complaint, every excuse, every bitter thought was a thread weaving your own cage tighter around you. Freedom doesn't come when the world becomes fair. It doesn't arrive on the day you finally get what you think you deserve. It comes when you finally, brutally, accept that no one is coming to save you. Not the next opportunity, not the next relationship, not the next victory. Nothing outside of you will ever heal the fracture within. Nothing outside of you will ever make you whole. The world can offer you glimpses, moments of connection, flashes of joy, slivers of hope, but they are not foundations. They are passing clouds. They are flickers in the dark. They cannot build the kind of life you crave unless you build it yourself, brick by brick, decision by decision, through the lonely, often thankless work of choosing to live with your eyes wide open. You stop asking life to hand you happiness like a gift wrapped in gold. You stop believing the lie that you are a victim of forces beyond your control. You begin to see that you are not powerless, and that realization, though it is heavy and merciless, is also your salvation. It is a cold awakening. You grieve the illusions you once clung to. You mourn the easy answers, the comforting lies. But after the grief, there's something else, something quieter, stronger. There is the truth of your own will. The realization that even in a world that does not owe you anything, you can still create meaning. Even in a world that turns away from your pain, you can still choose to live. And that choice, made again and again in defiance of all that would break you, is where real freedom is born. You are not free when the world bends to your will. You are free when you no longer need it to. You stop being a victim of life. You start becoming its master. And that's where everything changes. But if you want to be free, truly free, you have to stop waiting. You have to stop looking for happiness in places that were never designed to sustain you. You have to stop bargaining with a world that never promised you anything. Because happiness isn't a deal you strike with life. It's a rebellion against everything that tries to convince you that you're not enough. And it starts with you. It starts when you stop asking, when will life make me happy? And start asking, when will I finally choose to be? Maybe you've been hurt. Maybe life has shattered you in ways you don't even have words for. Maybe you've been taught that suffering is noble and that happiness is a selfish indulgence you haven't earned. Maybe you're carrying wounds no one else can see, but none of that changes the truth. None of that changes the fact that your happiness still depends on you. Not because your pain isn't real, not because your wounds don't matter, but because no one else can crawl inside your mind and save you. No one else can make the choice for you. No one else can live your life for you. The world will keep spinning, indifferent to your suffering, deaf to your hopes. It will not pause to reward you. It will not hand you what you think you deserve. You have to do that. You have to choose. You have to decide, even in the face of everything you cannot control, that you will not let it define you. You have to decide that your happiness is not a luxury, not a prize, but a small, stubborn rebellion against the darkness. And it won't be easy. You will have days when everything inside you screams that you are failing. You will have nights when loneliness wraps itself around you like a noose, and you will wonder if you were ever meant to feel anything other than emptiness. Nights when the silence becomes unbearable, when the shadows creeping across your walls feel more alive than you do. Nights when the weight of your own existence presses down so hard on your chest that you can barely breathe. You will lie awake staring at the ceiling, feeling the minutes bleed into hours, asking yourself questions that have no answers. You will wonder if happiness was ever real, or if it was just a story you were told to keep you chasing a life that doesn't exist. The world outside will continue moving, indifferent to your unraveling. Cars will pass by your window. The moon will hang in the sky, cold and silent, offering no comfort. People you love will sleep peacefully, unaware that you are drowning in a sea of invisible sorrow. You will scroll through your mind, searching for a memory bright enough to save you, but even your happiest moments will feel distant, muted, hollow. You will try to remind yourself of all the reasons you should be grateful, but gratitude will feel like a language you have forgotten how to speak. And in those moments the temptation will come, the temptation to believe that this emptiness is your natural state, that you were built to be hollow, that no matter how many battles you fight, no matter how many times you claw your way toward the light, you will always end up back here, in the dark, gasping for air. You will think about giving up, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, exhausted surrender. You will imagine what it would feel like to stop trying, to stop hoping, to stop reaching for something better when all it ever seems to do is slip through your fingers. But somewhere inside you, buried beneath the exhaustion, the grief, the relentless ache, something small will stir. A whisper, not loud enough to banish the darkness, but just strong enough to remind you that emptiness is not the end of your story, that loneliness is not your identity, that pain, no matter how sharp or endless it feels, is not the sum of who you are. You are not your loneliness. You are not your hollow nights. You are not the ache that grips your chest at 3 a.m. when the world feels colder than it ever has before. You are something deeper, something more enduring. A spark that refuses to go out even when the winds of despair howl their loudest. And maybe survival doesn't look the way you thought it would. Maybe it's not triumphant or beautiful or poetic. Maybe it's just choosing again and again to keep breathing even when every part of you is begging to disappear. Maybe survival is quieter than you expected. Maybe it's simply refusing to let the emptiness define you. And maybe, just maybe, that refusal is where your real strength begins. You will have moments when choosing happiness feels like the most unnatural thing in the world. But you will also have moments of clarity. Moments when you realize that the emptiness you feared so much was never a punishment. It was an invitation to fill the void with your own light. Not with someone else's love, not with another shallow success, not with another half-hearted dream, but with you. Your strength, your resilience, your ability to choose yourself even when the world refuses to. Happiness doesn't look the way you were taught it would. It's not a constant feeling of bliss. It's not a life free from pain. It's not the absence of fear or sorrow or loss. It's the courage to sit with all of those things and still say, I will not abandon myself. It's the quiet defiance of hope in a world that teaches you to despair. It's not glamorous. It won't win you applause. But it will be real. It will be yours. It will endure when everything else falls away. Are you ready to unlock the true meaning of happiness? Or will you keep chasing shadows until there is nothing left of you but the echo of what could have been? Will you keep running after illusions, hoping they will save you? Or will you finally stop and realize that the only person who can save you has been waiting inside you all along? It's not easy. It's not fair. But it's real. And it's yours if you want it. You can choose it now. You don't have to wait for the world to change. You don't have to wait for the pain to stop. You don't have to wait for permission to become who you were always meant to be. You can choose to stop chasing and start becoming. The choice has always been yours, and it always will be.